I'm Benjamin Hall, and I'm searching for heroes. Hey, well, look, thank you very much for joining us again, everybody. And look, our guest today is someone who actually I share a lot of experiences with, and that's because he was injured in Iraq. He was a hospital corpsman, and he was injured in 2005, had very similar injuries to me. Loss of a leg, shrapnel in the eye, traumatic brain injury. We were treated at sometimes in the same place, Brook Army Medical Center. And, we also had the decision about whether our family should join us and how that played out. So he went through this in 2005, long before I did. And since then, he's written a book called Exit Wounds, a survival guide to pain management for returning veterans and their families. And he just talks to many people about what it was like from what he went through, what his experiences were like, and how the journey has been afterwards. He is now a competitive athlete. He runs in many triathlons, sometimes as a member of the team Semper. So he has basically survived and he has thrived. And we have a very honest and open conversation today. And I hope you enjoy it. Thanks very much. I tell you what, why don't we start with this?
Yeah,
if you were talking to someone who had been very injured, the way you and I have been injured, and it was a month after, and they were there in the ICU and they were really struggling. They didn't know how they were going to get through. What would you say to them? What are the words you would give to them to find resilience and hope at those dark times?
I remember actually performing those things. We were, at one time, we would be over at that time, Walter Reed and the National Naval Medical Center for my treatment process before I went to Brook Army Medical Center. And even after later on, I can speak directly to what I would do. I remember newer service members would come in injured and, really in a place of deep trauma, open wounds. There's no lens of recovery or loss of identity and confusion, and don't have a clue, because when you're there, you're performing your duty and you're not thinking about injury. You plan for death and you atone for death and you come to that realization, but you don't have that. I don't mean to say you are project, but I didn't have that perspective. I was going to get severely injured, if you will. And so when you come back and you're now open, if you will, completely, your soul is raw, your wounds are raw, your leg is raw, your brain is out of whack, you're sitting there alone. And what I offered when I had that strength and ability is we were given the opportunity as amputees who have already gone through a little bit of our recovery process, if you will, and a physical recovery process at that. We were able to go and meet some of these young men and women at the hospital side as we were ambulatory. And so it's not that you spoke anything. It's not that you projected your will or you were just present in their disaster, but they also could see that not too long ago, this guy did it. And it's not like an ego thing, or it's just they start to develop or see their strengths and see that it could be possible to regain. And then hopefully over time, they'll start articulating what they want, what they see their new normal is. And you just listen to it and hear it and offer support. At BAMC specifically, later on towards the end of my therapeutic journey and learning how to run and train and triathlon as an AK and focusing on that, younger men and women and service members would see us, and then they would want to compete into that same level and or attempt that same thing. And I think I can speak to this. When you're at BAMC, you see different people at different levels of recovery, if you will, or excellence in their abilities or their new bodies. And it can be inspiring for those other ones, not by speaking it, not by giving them
it's just by showing them. Yeah. It's by giving them hope. You are that piece of hope for them. And like, I remember being at CFI, and we'd go in every day and there'd be people on other beds. And it was always like, well, he did 20 of those. He pulled it off. I'm going to do 21 of them. And together in that room, everyone was pushing the other one. And it was together that we managed to do so well. And so you're right, being there. And I remember the first time that I walked into CFI and I was nervous and I'd heard about it and I didn't know what it was going to be. And suddenly you saw other people like yourself sitting there with their legs off. And it felt so natural for the first time, because till then you've been in the ICU. You haven't been outside. You don't know what the real world looks like. And that center, surrounded by other people like you, was that moment to say, hey, you know what? They've gone through it. I can go through it as well. And you're totally right. Being there and showing them is a big, big part of it. But it's not always that easy. I mean, that's, and I know you have written, you actually said that, and I've got a quote here. You said, there have been people who didn't leave me even when I told them to, who gave me chances, who listened even during my darkest times. And so, I know there are moments when people want to help you and you still shut them off because you are still lost. Can you talk to me a little bit about what that was like for you in those moments, what got you to those low moments, and then afterwards how you found your way out of them?
I really appreciate that perspective, because I really wanted to highlight on that. And it also lends to gratefulness. So you become to a spot where, let's say, agonizing physical pain or agonizing mental stress or mental pain, and that's part of the journey. Your new identity, your self-worth, your value, who I was before. I'm not as excellent as that person. And so failures or feeling like I failed at my excellence or in my value, or even as a husband or as a dad or as a service member, as a friend, I did not perform to the perfect excellence in combat. I got hit. I did not recover the way I wanted to recover. And so throughout these journeys, I fixated on some of them, and I really looked bad at myself. Like, gosh, did I quit? And then,
because in a German hospital, I remember that I've read that, the one thing you kept saying to, I think, your family members was, will they spit on me? Will they spit on me? Because you thought that by being injured, you had somehow let down the side. And that's fascinating for me to hear that. I hadn't really considered that before, that one of the most important feelings was, by being injured in the military, I have sort of failed at what I was there to do. Is that it?
And then also it would be confusing in that my value and what I brought to the table as a hospital corpsman with the Marines and what I felt I was doing was right, and then my personal values. And then sometimes we were in this experience, and say outside of when I got hit, and I get back and you start hearing some perspectives, which is extremely important in the news and so forth. And I just didn't see it the same way as that.
What do you mean perspectives?
Perhaps like sometimes some of the news articles would not be reflective of what I witnessed or saw. I saw amazing acts of bravery. I saw amazing moments of courage. I saw amazing love to people. And I didn't witness some of the evils that I was hearing that was coming out of that. I love that we have free press. I think it's extremely important. It's just, it was in not the same experience that I have. Mm-hmm. And the same moments and not the same feelings that I had. So you almost felt like, gosh, is that what happened? And you start almost second guessing yourself. And then you stay in that space. No, I was here. This is what I attempted to do. This is my value. This is my small little world in this pie. And I hold true to my character and what I did and what I participated in, what I witnessed. And so speaking to that, it was just in conflict sometimes. And so that you had to dig down and really hold into that, like, no, my values, the people with me, we did what we did. And it just felt in conflict sometimes. And so I just stopped bearing witness to some of it. And yeah, there's all kinds of wrongs. I'm not trying to say that it's not perfect out there, but not too sure if it's as bad as it is. So, but from my lens, it just was in conflict. So I hope
I would agree. I agree with you 100%. It certainly wasn't as bad as, and when I said liberal media earlier, I meant that there was just a large people of one side who was questioning what people were doing. And well, the role of the soldier, the role of the guy in the military out there had nothing to do with any of the big pictures. You know, they were totally separate.
Yes, sir. So thank you for that. I hear that. And may I add on to that, into my darkest spot, like in those moments in time, it's like, so going back to, let's say, the staff at Bamson, or my beautiful wife, or a friend in the community that rode a bike with me at 5 a.m, or a nice Vietnam veteran that just was my friend. Just people at these poignant moments who have chosen to open their hearts, offered pieces to me. Or if this nurse, the nurse that's helped me, the doctors that helped me. My doctor in BAMC believed about my neuroma and my pain experience and just validated my journey. The case manager from the Semper Fund, American Fund, saw me one day. I'm sitting at this point, I'm at Walton Malone House. I'm really freshly injured, and I'm just sitting in the wheelchair, just morning muster, getting ready for PT. And that's when she asked, she came up to me, and there's no way. And we're talking, and I may have my dates wrong, but she said to me, like, you want to run the Marine Corps Marathon with us? And this was pre-Team Simplify and all that. And I was like, holy smokes, you're the first person that didn't see me as disabled or broken or had this left parietal brain damage, or it's hard for an AK to run, or it's going to be unlikely that you'll be able to be active duty. It's going to be unlikely you'll get to be able to get your education. And this person at that moment, and they believed in me. And BAMC, let's go to BAMC. Gosh, BAMC. The therapist would get up with me at before working hours. And they're civilians and military both, and they didn't have to do that. At BAMC, we would train at the parade grounds. And at my prosthetist, he came to my college graduation. The other staff at BAMC.
You must have been with John and Dell.
Yes. And it's just these relationships and these poignant moments. And I didn't ask them to. And then, like you said, the vets next to you, or excuse me, the service members at that time next to you. And then you really empathize with what they're dealing with. You can feel it. You can't fix it, but you can still be present in the suck with them.
Yeah. So you would say that was one key moment when the nurse came and said, hey, do you want to go run the marathon? You're going to join us. And suddenly you realized that there were things ahead. And up to that point, you didn't think there was anything, but that gave you your first goal. And would you then agree that goals became really important? Like, that was the goal I was going to hit next, run a marathon. And after that, you've gone on to do so many other things.
That's how I see it as well. Initially, the goal was I took shrapnel to the eye, a left parietal, and just to go back, the left parietal bleed, which is, you understand, so my whole right side of my body didn't work. So there was a big period of time where I spent a lot of time in polytrauma. And at that time, my oldest son, who is in February turns 20, we were pregnant. And in that moment, all I wanted to be able to do is read to my son. That was my number one goal with the TBI, because we were pregnant at that time. However, things had gotten improved quickly, and blessingly, I'm back over at Malone House, Walter Reed National Naval Medical Center. Sean is born. I'm able to read to him and nurture him. I still had my hands to hold to him. And so that was reinvigorating. So the number one drive is to be a dad. And then downrange, as the healing process continues, and I'm trying to figure out my body and this pain and this disability, if you will. The inspiration, like some of the physical struggles were so difficult in that I just started feeling like I'm not going to heal and I'm not going to get better. The case manager from the Semper Fund, American Fund, she didn't have to do it. For some reason, planted that seed. Like, no, you're not the way I perceived it, you're not disabled. It's the first person that said that to me. You're going to run the Marine Corps Marathon. Then I committed. Said, okay, I'm not going to let you down. However, I had another surgery, and I had HO, heterotopic ossification, which is like spiny bone growth. And but I committed to it. So then it was the following year, finally, when I was in a space of healing and more comfort and strength, I was like, I was able to commit that goal to her. And I ran the 10K with them. And if not for that, goal orientation, somebody believes in you. Again, you start building on those strengths. And I chose to get my physical exertion out in lieu of coping with some of my mental health struggles. And so, and which is a healthy outlet, exercise, training, triathlon, goal, get my degree, be a dad, never really focusing on some of those core traumas, if you will. And that was more of a recent experience that I was able to really hone into that.
More of our conversation right after this. You've written a book, it's called Exit Wounds, A Survival Guide to Pain Management for Returning Veterans and Their Families. And the first question I want to ask about that is, it's a survival guide to pain management. And I know all of us have gone through some pretty dark, painful moments where you don't know how you're going to get through it. And, in those moments where the physical pain is almost beyond challenging, how did you get through those moments? What mental strength did you have to grab hold of to get hold of the physical pain?
Yeah. I think that driving factor was, I have to figure this out. I need to move forward with it, because right here on my left was my pregnant wife and my unborn son, which I valued so much that I had to figure out how to get through this to be of value, to be a good dad, and now what I see is a good husband. And so that driving factor was so important, so I could recover to be that person that I wanted to be for my son and, of course, my beautiful wife. Was it easy? Hell no. Was there times where I felt despairing and thoughts of not being here any longer would be better? But when I really looked down deeper at that, every day, woke up, had that discipline, had that love and support, show up to physical therapy every day in the morning, first thing in the morning, get in that pool, believe there'll be something, advocated for myself, learn different ways to get treatment. And then fundamentally, when I moved to Brooke Army Medical Center, I alluded to these human connections. And I think being believed was a big caveat to my future growth with the pain management. And then with that resource, trying to share other information and guidance with other people, because it was so despairing. That moment in my journey of healing and recovery was very despairing, in that I never thought I would have a productive life, or the kind of productive life I wanted.
Yeah.
And so,
I suppose it's what I keep trying to figure out from all my guests is that idea of resilience, how when someone's back is up against a wall and you don't think you can get through anything and it's so bad, that people can find that one moment of hope, that one spark, that one thing that turns it around for them. And you've clearly gone on to do that. And I find that amazing. And would you now say that one of the things you focus on, I've seen in some of the work you've done, is trying to pass that on to other people?
I have found over time, sharing, and even in this opportunity, just giving permission that it's okay to be vulnerable and to talk about it. And so not necessarily sharing my way or the way that I thought about doing it, but it's okay to look at yourself, whether it's your mental health, your physical health, your pain health, and to really, I don't have the answer for them or Joe or anybody, but I think when we dig down deep and look at it inside of our soul, or we look at trauma, or we look at when we're ready to do it and do the work, if I had that opportunity to come alongside somebody else and help them walk that process, it's not that I'm solving it or fixing it. It's just I'm present in the suck with them as they heal and they find their answers. And so what I do now, it's not necessarily pain management. I have been serving our homeless veterans for quite a bit of time, and in that journey too, it's a lot different. There's a lot of different traumas, different mobility problems, issues in that space. And so sometimes when you're just present with them, you get to walk their process non-judgmentally and maybe offer a few pieces of insight when they ask and when they're ready. I don't think it's me, fixing. It's just being present in their journey,
It's not as if saying, what worked for me will work for you. Here you go. Everyone has to find their own path through it, and you can sort of guide them and show how you did it, but you can't. No, everyone has to find their own way of getting through something difficult, and that's no matter whatever you're going through. I suppose let's just finish up with leaving you with your message, sort of resilience. People who are going through something difficult, and I'm not saying it's injuries, whatever they're going through, if it's difficult, what would you say to them, about getting through it?
Man, have the capacity to pause and look at yourself, look at your heart, look at your scars and dig into it, do the work, don't avoid it, be accountable, validate it, move forward, look at it, do the work you got to do to be that, whether it's a missing leg or it's a mental health trauma or it's a brain injury, as to your best you can. Just take pause and self-reflect and do that work. Because if not, it beholds you, it shackles you.
Yeah.
And we only have a short life. So we're not here very long.
Yeah.
Just do that work, gain that capacity, own your process.
I know I've spoken to a couple of guests and I used to say it was all about the people around you. It's all about the people who helped you and got you there. But I've slightly changed now. I've said this in a few of these podcasts. I now think that it's sort of 80 to 90% the people around you, but it is 10 to 20% you. The doctors and the physios, the PTs, they're there and they're saying we've got to get up. But you got to dig inside you to find that little part of you that says, okay, I am moving forward more today than I did yesterday. I am doing that. So there has to be something inside you. It's not just the people around you. You've got to find it in yourself. Don't just wait for someone else to bring it to you. That's what I found too.
Thank you. I hear that. You got to do it. You got to earn it.
Hey, Derek, thank you so much for speaking with me today. Great pleasure to speak to you. And now let's stay in touch. I'd like that.
I would like that as well. Wish you excellence, man.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for listening to Searching for Heroes. Listen ad-free with a Fox News Podcasts Plus subscription on Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Prime members can listen to this show ad-free on the Amazon Music app.